buddy. Hopefully this goes out. I know it's been getting harder and harder to do anything on this platform, and still, and I will for a little while longer. Little choice in the matter, it seems, but uh, got a lot to cover. Got a lot of stuff I want to run through. Some of the stuff I want to take a little bit more time on, and the other stuff, we'll blow through it. Go ahead, turn the chat on. Join. Make sure if you restart this or whatever, if you're hearing this, please hit the thumbs up. And then if you do remember, hopefully, or if you're not able to watch the entire live stream and you end up coming back after it loads, leave a comment. Um, Show interaction with the channel as much as you can, because that's what really, not that it's going to get me unshadow banned, but it does help algorithm to a certain extent. What up, CMB? Good to see you. Glad you can join. Appreciate you being here. I haven't watched this. I don't know how much I will watch of it, but it's good old Chucky Boy, the highest ranking Jew in the United States as far as politics are concerned. And he's got something to say. And it's like a 40-minute speech. At least I think so. I don't know how long it is. Maybe he just rambles for 3 minutes and the rest is like people talking about it. I don't know. But anytime Chucky Boy opens his mouth in front of cameras and it's broadcast to the entire United States population, it's usually against our freedoms, our rights. It's some move to portray or frame a certain ideology in a certain context, certain light. What's up, Susie? Good to see you. Glad you can join. Let's see, we got 3, but still only 1 thumb up. I was going to try to wait till we get 5. I'm going to go ahead and play it. Let's listen.
The rise of anti-Semitism in America. I feel compelled
now, before I do go on, I don't have a whole lot of this type of stuff to talk about dealing with Israel and the Palestinian conflict that's occurring. But I do focus on things that they're always trying to move on us. What's up, Kutz? Good to see you. Tell your customers I said what's up. I try to focus on all of the infringements, if you will, on our rights and their moves against them, being usually guised under mainstream media news and what they choose to focus on. And as always, we'll go through it, of course. But I can't get away from it, right? It's not like I'm like just trying, because the media would have you believe this, that people that are reporting on these things right now in any different light than they have deemed appropriate, well, they're anti-Semites, of course. And I guess that's probably true, because their definition of anti-Semitism is so ever expanding that, I mean, if you're simply reporting on or talking about any one of a person that has Jewish descent, that is a Jew, you're anti-Semitic. That's plain and simple. They've made that perfectly clear. And unfortunately, I have to put that caveat in here, because it's not like I set out to do this. I always cover what's happening as far as them encroaching upon our rights. And that's since day one. What's happening, what it looks like, where we are going, the forecast of it all.
To speak because I'm the highest ranking Jewish elected official in America. In fact, the highest ranking Jewish elected official ever in American history. And I have noticed a significant disparity between how Jewish people regard the rise of anti-Semitism and how many of my non-Jewish friends regard it. To us, the Jewish people, the rise of anti-Semitism is a crisis, a 5-alarm fire that must be extinguished. For so many other people of goodwill, it is merely a problem, a matter of concern. So today,
problem, a matter of concern. And the fact that racism can be done only by people, but yet if it's done to white people, it isn't racism. Constantly with the white supremacy this, white supremacy that, white, like that. You want, like, I can't talk about George Soros because he's a Jew. Not the fact that I was talking about him being Jewish. Never said anything of the sort, but got a strike because I was talking about his ill will and the way he does what he does, right? That's a whole video in and of itself. That's why I made it. But that's what I was focused on. It didn't even cross my mind once during the video about his Jewness. That fucking YouTube didn't care. They gave me a strike nonetheless. They were like, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic." Well, excuse me? So even doing that is anti-Semitic. And like I said earlier, that's just broadening and it's expanding moment by moment. At the same time, you can say whatever, and it's getting ridiculous, the shit I'm saying, like white people that, and less. I couldn't care less. It means care, period. Some people do. Some people are like, and they're like, well, that's my heritage. And I understand that perspective. I understand it from the Jews' point. But you can't say it's okay for one group and then make it essentially criminal to do the exact same thing to another. And that's what's happening. And that, it's not by accident, of course. It's by design. They know that's going to piss people off. They know eventually there's going to be that last straw.
I want to use my platform to explain why so many Jewish people see this problem as a crisis. Before I get into that, I want to offer 2 important caveats about what this speech
What's up, Mitz? Good to see you. Appreciate you being here.
Is not. This speech is not an attempt to label most criticism of Israel and the Israeli government generally as anti-Semitic. I don't believe that criticism is. And this speech is also not an attempt to pit hate towards one group against that of another. I believe that bigotry against one group of Americans is bigotry against all, and that's why I've championed legislation like the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, which targets violence against Asian Americans. And
I support any act that's going to prevent violence against anybody. Sense of violence. But that is another term that have changed the definition of, where violence means now, according to the federal government, the DHS, the FBI, DOJ, etc., that violence is merely the incitement of. So if you say something that could piss somebody else off and cause them to act erratically and behave in a manner in which they themselves could cause violence, you are violent. As if you are in control, the puppeteer of that other person. You can see why they would do that. You can get a lot more by extension, by degrees out, right? Like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, or from Kevin Bacon, whatever. Everybody knows Kevin Bacon. By 6 degrees, it's like I know somebody who knows 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 Kevin Bacon. Or is that 7? Either way, you get the point. Same thing here. Like the amount of people you can scoop up just by adding 1 more degree. So it's like, yeah, well, we can't just, there's not enough people committing violent acts that have this ideology. We want this ideology wiped off the map because it's going to be a hindrance in us accomplishing the New World Order. Right? We can't have people believing in freedom and nationalism and being patriotic. That's all got to go. And they've done a pretty damn good job of finding all of the right words to expand upon that the mainstream media can take a hold of and elaborate on these usually made-up stories. Most of them are psyops. Anything of significance usually is created by that very government. But nobody's really doing it. Nobody's really committing the violence, right? They have to concoct these things because it's not there. And the fact that they have to do that, well, now they know that, well, shit, if we can just do a separation of, right? Like if it's this mass shooter that went and done all this shit, which, yeah, it's probably a Fed and it's probably just an act, and they very well may have killed real people, unfortunately, because the government doesn't give up about you and despise you, rather. It was you. It was your words. It was what you thought. It was your post, your Twitter feed. It was all of your social media activity that radicalized this person and caused them to do whatever it is that they went and did. And if it wasn't you specifically, it was the ideology nonetheless, right? So, yeah, it may not have been you, but we know where that leads, says the government, after orchestrating the entire thing to make it look like exactly that happened.
And the Nonprofit Security Grant Program, which provides funding to help all houses of worship, churches, mosques, synagogues, gurdwaras, and to protect them from extremists. When President Trump called for a Muslim ban during the first weeks of his presidency, I held an emergency press conference to protest the ban alongside a Muslim mob.
Wait. So Chuck's up here talking about, and I'm not by any means am I a Trump fan. There's no way that I support any of these politicians. Trump's not a politician. Yes, he is. But what he said was rather interesting, that he doesn't support the banning of anything, right? Like, you just talk about Trump and his ban on Muslims. But what are they doing right now? What are the Jews doing right now when it comes to people that support a different ideology? When it comes to people that support Palestine? They're being blacklisted. They got the CEOs literally conspiring together and putting them on blacklists, so when they graduate from whatever field that they're in study of, that they cannot get a job later on at a BCD company because of their support for Palestine. Now, that sounds like a Muslim ban to me if you interchange the Muslim part. Is one side better than the other, or anybody that's able to do this to people are just evil scumbags? Which is it? How can you be hypocritical enough to be able to sit there and say, well, this is just horrible, simultaneously doing the exact same thing?
Imam and 4 of her daughters, all dressed in chadors, who said they feared they might never see their father again. It was a deeply...
Oh, you got me there. This guy, what a maggot.
Distressing moment. And I'm an emotional sort.
Oh, shit. Let me retract that because I don't want to say anything negative. I think he said he was Jewish, right? So don't George Soros me, Screwtube.
Began to cry. President Trump saw me crying on TV and gave me a nickname, Crying Chuck Schumer. I was and am proud of that moniker. The growing and vibrant Arab community...
All right, I can't. This is too much. Too much bullshit. Let's move on. How many people we got? That's 5. That's what I was hoping for. You know what, though? I want to stick with it just a moment longer. I feel like there's something here, and it's usually a little later on. I don't think I can make it, man.
Is a vital Arab American community, is a vital part of our nation and of my city. And I condemn unequivocally any vitriol and hatred against them. We tragically saw where such hatred can lead sometimes in Vermont this week. And that is unacceptable. But today, I want to focus my remarks on anti-Semitism because it hits so close to home for me and because I believe this moment demands it. I have just said what this speech is not. So what is this speech about? I want to describe the fears and anxieties of many Jewish Americans right now, particularly after October 7th, who feel there are aspects of the debate around Israel and Gaza that are crossing over into anti-Semitism, rank anti-Semitism, with Jewish people simply being targeted for being Jewish.
Oh, man, he talks way too slow. I'm sorry, guys. Let's move on. Oh, what are we starting with here? Oh, this garbage. Gotta do this for a second, sorry. Don't get dizzy. All right. The Wiambia shootings. Questions remain on monitoring of domestic extremists. Trio embraced dizzying intersection of narratives. What is this? What do I have up here? Oh, I like them jackets. Somebody want to give me a jacket? No, we're going to jump ahead. I know what that's about. We'll come back to it if we have time. But Walmart shooter who injured 4 may have been motivated by racial extremism. Racial extremism, you say? Do tell. I love when they just keep... What was that one the other day? It's my new favorite one. Bias incidents. Bias incident. Biases, or... Isn't that what it was? Pretty sure. But it's not that they just shoved a couple of words together as they spoke. That's like a new thing. Bias incidents. It's part of law. Something so generic and so incredibly tyrannical. Hold on. My apologies, my wife's. Where did I leave off? So, racial extremism is just another way of doing it. And I would imagine that they're going to continue to create all sorts of wonderful terms that they can try to get the vast majority of society to get behind and say, yeah, no, racial extremism is bad. And jump on board. Because it's not. It sounds bad. And I'm sure this article doesn't make me want to be a racial extremist. But where does it end? Anti-Semitism, misinformation, conspiracy. We've seen these terms being opened up to include virtually anything and everything that's being discussed outside of the mainstream narrative box that they've created. A white gunman, I love it. A white gunman. They don't say a black gunman when there's all these other shootings, right? A Jewish man shot. No, just only when it's white. A white gunman who opened, and this is a communist tactic, by the way. This isn't new. This isn't like, why are they doing this? This is a tried and true tactic for since the days of Marx. It's you go after the largest. You divide up the minorities is in as many different ways as possible. And then you pit all of them minorities. You make them a class of one, essentially, right? Well, you're just the minorities. And therefore, you're 60%, 70%, what have you. And then there's who, in this country and other countries like Ireland, the ones that they tend to be going after first, are predominantly white. I mean, if you want to say, who the majority is, it would surely be white. So what they do is they got to go after the majority. They have to break that, right? That's their biggest enemy. Is it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be white. It could have been brown. It could have been black. It's irrelevant. It's whatever has the majority. If you're trying to impose this type of governing, I guess I wouldn't call socialism / communism any type of governing. It's more of it's tyranny. That's another video. But that's what they're doing, right? So that's why they always make it a point to say a white gunman, but when it happens to be somebody of a different race, they'll do everything they can to leave that race out of it. For instance, many people didn't know that this black man shot 13 people. Now that would have been nationwide news. I mean, it's nationwide news when there's a shooting of like 5, 6 people. Like it's all over. Oh, this man, blah 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 blah. This person shot 13 people. Many of them children. And no mention of the race whatsoever. Now, there's this other incident of a black person, and listen, it's not about race. We need to push this shit aside and realize what it is and why they are using race. As it's a divisive tactic. So me pointing this out isn't saying like, oh, it's this group versus that group, because there is a group, but it's not a race. I don't care what they say. But those are the ones that are usually pulling the strings. But those same people will say, let me finish what I was just saying actually about the other one. So there was this black teenager who beat the shit out of a little girl on a bus. And I covered this story, you may remember, when the mainstream media covered the story, they showed on the picture that they show for it, they put a white boy punching a white girl. But those are the games that they play, right? Because it has to be, in this case, whitey's bad. But like I said, that could be interchangeable with anything depending on the majority. I digress. A white gunman who opened fire inside a Walmart in Ohio wounded 4 people before killing himself may have been motivated by racist extremism, the FBI said Wednesday. 4 shoppers, 2 black women, a white woman, and a white man were wounded in the attack at Walmart in Beaver Creek, a suburb of Dayton, just days before Thanksgiving, the FBI said. Man, a lot of shit happens at Walmarts. Evidence, including journal writings, shows the shooting may have even been at least partially inspired by racially violent extremist ideology, according to the FBI. What's up, P4? I don't want to read more. I got stuff to jump through. The point that I want you to take out of that is basically what I was talking about when I was addressing it, about how they're going to do everything they can to pit the races against each other. And if you're the predominant race, if you're the majority, then you're going to be the one that everybody is supposed to hate. And will, if they fall victim to the brainwashing, if they fall victim to the indoctrination mechanisms that are being used and utilized by the propaganda arm of the military industrial complex, which is the mainstream media. Let's jump over. Is it Mike Johnson? Mark Johnson? Somebody correct me in the chat. This guy came out of nowhere and then all of a sudden became the Speaker of the House. And what's interesting about that, well, actually, let's go off script here for a second. Yeah, 1 hour ago. Oh, that the Speaker of the House is a Christian nationalist. Christian nationalism is no longer operating beneath the surface. Mike Johnson is a pro-gun Christian nationalist. Yes, be afraid. This is an op-ed from the Washington Post. Now, we were told there would be times like this where they would come after certain groups of people. And I don't know how much more blatantly obvious it has to become, and not that anybody really gives a shit in society. Most people are NPR, like they're not real. I mean, they're not real. They're just there as extras. I mean, they might as well be, right? They're going to do as they're told. They're going to believe as they're told. And nothing's ever going to shake them out of that. They're always going to be under the spell. When there's others like you and I who can think, who can question, who can analyze, who can discern, they are background characters. And you know what? It's actually alarming sometimes, like how much they seem to be a program, like literally just operating off of code. But we know not what this world is. We know not the intricacies, how this all works. Maybe we are in a simulation. Maybe we don't know. I mean, these are very philosophical, important questions that everybody asks in their lifetime. They want to, what, and who are we? And what's our purpose? Oh, look at this. Former Playboy White House reporter says MAGA and Christian nationalism are a bigger threat to U.S. than Hamas. Yeah, go figure. I mean, it's perfect timing, right? It's perfect timing for the speaker. What is his name? Mike Johnson? the whole thing just, it seems so incredibly scripted. And of course, to me, of course it is. This stuff's ever by accident, never organic, decades in advance, sometimes centuries, depending on the goal. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I do want to talk about January 6th. This was, and it is it's still being wielded exactly how they want. It's not that this is unexpected. It's not that nobody foresaw, because I did, and other channels did, and I'm sure some of you did, that this would play out in the way that it is. That the previous Speaker of the House, Kevin McCartney, what's his name? Kevin McCarthy? McCartney. I was listening to Beatles earlier. Sorry. It just all seemed like it was all set to fail from the beginning. It was always like, there wasn't a moment that I believed Kevin McCarthy was like the actual Speaker of the House. The whole way that he even got in was such a charade, right? I remember like Matt Gaetz and everybody was Jim Jordan. They were all holding out. And Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they wanted their concessions. And it is a good idea to do that, don't get me wrong. But right after that happened, Marjorie Taylor Greene runs over and hugs Kevin McCarthy. It's just a big joke. It's a charade. None of it is authentic. And it seemed to me at the time that they were setting the stage for something else. And now that there is a Christian nationalist as the Speaker of the House, when you tie that into everything else that's going on with Israel and Palestine, when you tie that into what we were just reading about, the racial extremism, and they all seem to have a common enemy, the people that are perpetrating all this, right? The white supremacists, which is another term that your common person would hear and be like, oh, like those are the skinheads that are, running around with denim jackets with Nazi swastikas on the back. No. That's what they want you to think, right? That's what the image that they want you to draw in your mind. But if you read, as we cover all the time, what they are really talking about is anybody that's white that disagrees with anything that they're saying. They got multiple names for these people: far-right extremists, conspiracy theorists, white supremacists, if you happen to be white. I think this one nails a couple of them, right? Yeah, far-right and conspiracy theorists. Right? A perfect example. The Speaker fulfilled a demand of the far-right. Now, why this term? And why do they keep using it excessively? Well, look what's happening in Ireland. All of a sudden, the entire population just became far-right. So you're automatically far right if you are a human being and think for yourself. It doesn't matter your politics. I'm not by any means a Republican. I am far from. I am also not by any means a Democrat. I am not a conservative. I am not a liberal. I am not a libertarian. I am not a definition that you can slap on me that you can label me as, because once you identify and adopt a word that is supposed to represent you, then you're excluding other traits that you have. And you're giving yourself traits that you may not have had. And subconsciously, psychologically, this actually ends up making you more of whatever it is that you decided to identify as. We only become what it is that we want to become. If we want to label ourselves a certain way, if let's say I woke up tomorrow and I'm like, well, I'm a Democrat or I'm a liberal. And this happens all the time. People are especially with the younger generations, the young part of society that are growing up, and they're trying to make sense of the world, and they're trying to find out who they are. And they're asking themselves, who am I? Who do I identify with? What lunch table am I supposed to sit with? And then they get the word, right? They become, oh, I'm a jock. Oh, I'm goth. Oh, I'm emo. Oh, I'm a nerd. Oh, I'm... And then when they have that, they start adopting other things that they might not normally have had. Just like if I woke up tomorrow saying I'm a Democrat or a liberal, I might start trying to subconsciously identify with things that I might not have if I didn't put myself in such a narrow box. It's important that we don't box ourselves in with terms and labels and be a free thinker. But they would want anything but that. And with this January 6th stuff, man, it's playing out exactly like they want. This isn't like some surprise where that they are being released. They want the people pissed off. They want the revolt. They want the violence. Remember that letter? I've covered it. Maybe it's time to go over it again. The Albert Pike memo. There was a letter to Albert Pike. Or maybe it was from Albert Pike. I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was about the World War I, World War II, and then World War III, and then about releasing the nihilists. They were right about the first two, and whether or not, I know there's a lot of debate whether that was a legit letter or not. To me, that's irrelevant, because whoever did write it clearly had foreknowledge of what was to come, because they nailed both of the world wars to a T. Now, you don't do that unless, I mean, maybe you got a crystal ball, maybe you're a prophet, I don't know. But in this case, it definitely didn't seem as such, and it just seemed like it was somebody in the know writing somebody else that was in the know, a 33rd degree Mason, and telling them, like, yeah, I think this is what we're going to go through with. This is how we're going to do it. And look at how it's playing out right now. The first two, 100%, they nailed it. So far, 100%, they're nailing the Third World War. It's not an accident. There's a certain group of people that have been doing everything they can for quite a long time now, putting themselves in key positions of power, and then once they are there, getting their buddies in other key positions, their buddies, until they have enough of the institutions, enough government agencies, where they feel confident enough They control the money system. They control commerce. They control every single facet of the way that the economy and society and government run, where they're like, okay, game on, it's time, right? Like the Maserati commercial. We come out of the shadows and we strike. And what was the Maserati emblem? Oh, yeah, the trident. And right after that, what happened? Oh, yeah, Ukraine. And then, I mean, you'll know them by their symbols. I was going to spend an entire video. Of course, it's coming. And guys, it's already looking like exactly what we said well in advance. Not trying to brag, of course, just saying that we were on the right track about the next one targeting children. It definitely appears to be that is the direction that they are going to go. And how powerful that would be, right? It's easy when the only people that are getting sick and dying, according to the mainstream media and your government, are people of the elderly age, your senior citizens and such. But when it's a child, and when it's your child, or at least the prospect of it becoming your child, the fear goes through the roof. They turn it up to 11, and though I would like to think that everybody learned their lesson on the first go-around of this, something tells me there will be so many people begging for their enslavement, even more so than the first time. And I think it's a well thought out tactic. And that's why we, I think, made multiple videos talking about the fact that the next one would be the children. And we've been right about the waves, about the reintroduction of these things. Now, I've been wrong as well. You know, there's been certain things that I thought would happen way sooner than they did. They got more patience than I do, that's for sure. I don't, like, sometimes I'm just like, there's no way, you know, like, but they do. They'll wait it out. They'll wait it out until, and if they should, like, by now, I should understand that principle, that they want to give it enough time where there's, like, no question left of whether or not, you know, this is being done by design or it just happens to be a freak accident. Doesn't that look good? You should probably go get your boosters. I think we're up to 11 or 12. Nice, beautiful shot of some wonderful nanotechnology flowing through your veins, inside your body, doing all of those crazy tech things that, oh man. It is a golden age. A golden age of jabs. It's here, and what it means for you. Roll up your sleeves. Effective new vaccines have hit the market for everything from pneumonia, you don't say, shingles, to RSV, and of course, COVID-19 in 2020, according to a report from Trade Group Pharma Research and Manufacturers of America. That's it. That's $406 billion in direct medical costs were saved, according to routine childhood vaccines. You could ever prove a negative, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're like, oh, we saved this much from treating people from diseases that they never got. Kind of seems a little impossible to do that, but they seem to have it pegged with 406 billion. Oh yeah, you could have got the mumps. You could have got measles, hepatitis. You could have. No, you had your vaccines. That's why you didn't. Clearly, right? Even though we tend to see a correlation, especially as of late, between vaccines and people end up becoming. Gotta be careful how I word this one. I'll just I'll stay clear for now because I do want to finish this live stream and leave it up. Thing, period, because it gets me worked up and I tend to go off and then I say shit that I instantly regret because I know it's going to get me a strike. Truth is not popular among tyrants. Ireland attempts to quell riot with hate speech laws. Problem, reaction, solution, right? It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know, of course, but it wouldn't surprise me if this was all orchestrated as well. If they had one of their fucking MI5 or MI6 pieces of shit go out there and stab a bunch of children, or make it look like, right? I don't know the level of psychopathy that they're working with, but I know that they're perfectly capable within these agencies to do that. Whether or not they found somebody that's capable of doing that, which there's plenty of them, right? Like, watch some of these police videos around here in the United States and watch how eager they are to violate your rights. And what do you think is going to happen when shit hits the fan? Do you think they're going to be like, oh no, we're on the people's side? No. They will be the guards standing from you and freedom. They will be the line of defense between you, cage, metal, barbed wire, and nature, and freedom, and just. They will be the ones that are standing there in your way, and they will be thinking in their head that they're somehow doing God's work, that they are the mighty ones, and it is their job to make sure that these peasants, these peons, stay in their little cages. I mean, they've been training them. It's been a pretty steady incremental rise in the amount of tyranny that we've been seeing, even with our local police. Instituting IQ levels that if you score too high on an IQ test, now this just got reported recently in another country. This is old news in the United States. If you score too high on your IQ test, you're not going to become a police officer. They do not want people that can think. They don't want people asking questions. They want order followers, bootlickers, egotistical tyrants. What happens when the whole country ends up getting pissed off? It's going to be interesting because it's important to pay attention. Is going to be what's happening here or wherever you are. As I often say, this is the new world order. It's the world order. You know what order means? You know what world means? Order of the world. If it's happening in one country, it's going to happen in yours. It's got to start somewhere, and they're going to learn from their mistakes, and they're going to see how they want us to do what Ireland is doing right now. They want to see it. They want it because it's going to be the violence. It's going to be all. What's up, Cindy? So glad you could join. That way they can come in and they can do what they love to do. They can put the boot of tyranny on the back of your neck and put your face in the pavement. I mean, right now here in the United States, they're building camps More of them. We already have like 943 FEMA camps, designated FEMA. Buffering for you guys. Oh. Guys, I know you guys are polite and it's nice, but anytime it's buffering or there's the screen is small or there's any problem whatsoever with the live stream, let me know immediately, because a lot of the times I can fix those issues. I program, I know code, there's not always, sometimes there's nothing I can do, but a lot of times we can fix the issue so you don't have to keep going through it as we go through the live streams. Because if I post this and I see that it's buffering or that I'm going to end up taking it down. So anytime, if you notice it, just let me know, please. Which I appreciate that. Retribution. But it reminded me of a video recently where the screen was small and everybody was just being nice, which I'd probably do the same and being like, well, I can see it, and we know how YouTube acts, so it's not a surprise to you guys, but I'm getting better at being able to tweak around these things. Hopefully there'll be a day where we can completely avoid it altogether, but hey, Carrie, good to see you. I'm glad you joined. I'm glad you stuck around long enough to catch another live stream. After an Algerian-born man, that's not what they were saying in Ireland, though. They refused to acknowledge the fact that he wasn't. So Ireland's like 94% Irish, right? Like white people, them damn white people. It doesn't matter, regardless of the race. But since they started this migration process, and I don't want to sound right wing on this, but it is true, since they've been, and that's gonna happen. People have. I mean, not to say like some countries and cultures it's okay to rape, pillage, and plunder people, but a lot of these migrants come from third world countries where that's kind of the day-to-day to a certain degree. So when you're just opening your borders, when you're ushering people into your country, you're going to see a spike in these things. Now, when you're talking about a country that virtually had none of this type of stuff ever happen, I mean, Ireland was like the safe neighborhood, right? I mean, it's just like every other nice upper class neighborhood you go to. They have their doors unlocked. That was Ireland. And then all of a sudden they see crime going through the roof, and they're like, "What the is going on?" Well, it's by design, guys, because they want you pissed off enough to do exactly what you're doing. And the fact that they held the name and they held where he was from, it's not because they didn't want you to know. It's so it could be so much more impactful when they did release it, because then everybody's going to then say, "Oh, the reason they weren't telling us was because he was." So that gets them more pissed off. It feeds into all of that. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not tenacity. It's the frustrations, I guess, due to a lack of a better word. After an Algerian-born man attempted to stab several children in Dublin last week, a riot kicked off in the center of Dublin. While it was attributed to the far right, it mainly consisted of the usual opportunistic lootings. A Foot Locker that had been ransacked in a 2006 riot was, again, looted in this one. Ireland has a state government, but its society has always been effectively governed by a clerical class, formerly Catholic, now Media, while a foreign class extracts the value and money from Ireland, formerly British, now Silicon Valley. That clerical class has gone into overdrive in recent weeks, emphasizing that there is nothing wrong with Ireland's incredible demographic transformation. Incredible demographic transformation. Only with the far right that dislikes it. So it's just you. Everything is going as planned. You're the problem. Take this to the bank. Let this sink in. Yes, it's in Ireland right now. But it'll be with you too, lad. Oh, you think you'd have got away, but you had to have a lot of time. It's the way they work. It's a tactic that not only have we not seen the end of, but we've barely seen the beginning of it. I wanted to read this one. I was so tempted to, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to save this for the live stream. If this is the one, it might not be. I think it is. Elon Musk's hate speech fueled reign of error is going global. In his latest, greatest achievement, Elon Musk has managed to do something offensive in 3 different countries in less than 24 hours. The X, formerly known as Twitter, owner has come under fire recently of how much hate speech, anti-Semitism, and extremist content. I'm sorry, are any of these things illegal? Are we not allowed to be angry and speak against things we strongly dislike? Now, they say anti-Semitism, but why is it only anti-Semitism? Why can't it be any other group other than? Why is anti-Semitism the only term to exist for a group of people? Why don't Europeans, just white European people have one? Why don't African Americans have one? No, anti-Semitism is a term that is almost always, 99.98% of the time, used under the Jewish pretext. And it can, like I said earlier, it can be anything. And extremist content. Again, who is going to define extreme? Is there a 94-year-old grandma sitting behind the keyboard that was raised during a different day and age? Or is there some hardcore Navy SEAL that worships Satan behind the controls? Like, extreme is clearly subjective, much like everything else is. So they're going after Elon Musk, who obviously they're going to keep doing that. And they might genuinely be going after him. It might not be, because I do believe that Elon Musk, if not the Antichrist, is a very important biblical persona during the end times, which I personally believe is the Antichrist. And I think that it would be a good move on his part to actually convince, like, legitly, not just like pretend to make it look good for people, but to actually like have people such as myself be like, wow, this guy over and over and over again has really stuck it to the man. Right? Even the man might not even know about it. Like, we're talking, this is different between spirituality and that realm versus this concrete materialistic world. And if he is the Antichrist, coming from a world like that, coming from you would want to make it look like you are the people's champion and gain the trust against like the obvious tyrants that are out there. And that appears to be what's happening. Or maybe Elon Musk is just a genuinely good guy. I mean, all the options are out there. It's up to you what you want to believe. I know what I do. Well, it's not a matter of belief for me. The X owner has come under fire recently for how much hate speech, anti-Semitism, extremist content has flourished on the social media network, including from Musk's personal account. Rather than address a problem that has advertisers wrinkled anew, he spent the weekend exasperating these problems. On Sunday night, Musk weighed in on a new law proposed in Ireland meant to curtail online hate speech. Irish lawmakers announced they plan to enact a law to crack down on racist hate speech online, a move that would make certain extremist memes and other online content illegal. Think about that. And this, we are very close here in the States to doing this same thing. I live in New York. Kathy Hochul, that's why I made 2 videos covering Kathy Hochul's speech, because it is as tyrannical as what's happening here. It's just there will be a major event in New York. And then once all this stuff it is now in place. All of the shit that she just put in place is now in place. So now we're waiting on the event. And when the event kicks off, everybody's going to be up doing whatever it is that they do after events take place. But this time, they're going to be taking names. They're going to be making visits. And they're going to be taking people away. Mark my words. A move that would make certain extremist memes and other online content illegal in response to anti-immigration riots. So you don't want people coming to your land? Well, the government's got something to say about that. The New World Order's got something to say about that. In one particular harrowing incident, a man attacked 5 people outside an element, 5 children. A man attacked 5 children in an elementary school on Thursday, injuring at least 3 children and 1 woman. Police did not reveal the man's identity to the public, but rumors began to spread that he was an Algerian national, sparking violent protests in central Dublin. Naturally, Musk was averse to the efforts to combat hate speech and violent rhetoric. No, just free speech. Listen, there's already laws in place. Guys, can anybody else hear me? Mic check. Yeah, they do this type of stuff, Shannon. I mean, I don't know. It seems to be on your end right now, but it's not easy to say that it's on your end, because I know the amount of attention that this channel gets for being such a small channel is insane to me. Like, I clearly am a threat for some reason. And I shouldn't be, because I advocate for peace. I am highly against violence. I just want to do everything I can while I'm here, again, to make sure that there's certain fundamental values that were given to us that cannot be taken away, that can only be taken away by illusion, magic. your consent. These are things that you were born with, these freedoms. Now you can give them away. You can let a government with the propaganda arm media sit there and spin all the spires that they so choose to. And you can willingly say, yes, we must protect the Jews. We must protect the Algerians. We must protect. And if that means making sure I can't say anything that you find offensive, then take my freedom away. That's your choice. But it is a divine gift. Freedom is not so easily attained. And we happen to be living in a very, very rare period of time where we actually have not the full front of them, but a large majority of our freedoms. God-given freedoms. And they're trying to trick us into thinking that, one, we need some other power that's been granted to them only by paper, by pen and paper alone, and nothing else. It's an illusion. You've granted this person the right to dictate what freedoms you have. And they're always going to want to take more from you because they want to control you as easily as possible. They want to prevent you from saying anything that will weaken or defame them and their power in any way. They've made a lot of progress, unfortunately, and I would wager that we'll probably make much more. And they will do it under the guise of hardship, of terrorism. They will do unspeakable things to the innocent, simultaneously blaming an innocent group and saying the whole while, if you had only had less freedom, this would never have happened. If you'd only allowed us to identify and profile you in advance, we could have protected you. And obviously, these are all lies. And they will always be lies. And they will never stop. The only stopping, the only end to it comes from you. Comes from what you are willing to forgo. Your rights that you are willing to give up. Because there will never, ever be an end to what they're trying to take. It will always, and I make this point from time to time, let's just say that we give them everything they want right now. That we eliminate all of it. That we put in all of these measures and all of this legislation and we pass laws that are so draconian that none of us can really ever say anything. And everybody's playing ball. We're all abiding to these rules. Well, then what? Are they just going to pack it up and go home? Are they just going to be like, oh, everything's good? We no longer need the police force. We no longer need the FBI. We no longer need the DOJ. We no longer need any of these institutions, none of these agencies, none of these hate speech groups, none of this ADL, SPLC. We no longer need any of that because everybody is finally doing what is asked. Or even though people are going to be doing what is asked of them, will there be some people that are more on the extreme side of what is asked, even though they're still, like, we're talking like your 1960s sitcom, your family movie type of scenario where everything's peachy, life is grand. Is there going to be that guy with the leather jacket with the slicked hair that just says too much? And now they're going to be like, well, no, I know we eliminated all that, but now this could lead to that. They're not going to put themselves out of a job. They're only expanding. They're never going to be like, oh, well, has there ever been a time where once power is gained, that it's been relinquished by the government that had gained that power? If so, educate me. Not saying that it's never happened, but as far as all of the studying and research that I've done, I have not come across it of significance, of anything that is a significant any real freedom, and not just some dumb law in the books where it says, oh, well, we said you could go 55, and then, we changed it to 40, but no, we changed it back to 55. Like, no, not that. I'm talking about real freedoms. Things that we all know, inalienate, all born with. And instinctively we know what they are. And if you don't, you will soon enough when they start coming for them and you realize that you can't do things or say things that you once were able to. Targeting Jews must be examined in the context of domestic terrorism. What's targeting? Quote unquote targeting?
What's that?
Litter Robot. It's a smart litter box that does the scooping for us.
Smart, huh? Hey, Litter Robot. Set the temperature to 70 degrees. Hey, Litter Robot.
Sorry, gotta go through this first.
Honey?
Hey, Litter Robot.
Hey, sweetie. Stop asking the litter box to do stuff. It's a self-cleaning litter box that does the scooping for us. Say hey to Litter
That's pretty
Robot
cool.
and goodbye to scooping. The smart appliance that helps without asking.
We showed you this at the top of the hour, but we're going to show it to you again. A Jewish teacher in New York City was forced to hide in a locked office as a mob of angry students hunted her down because she had supported Israel. Rabbi Abraham Cooper joins us now from Israel. Rabbi, in my opinion, this is a disgrace, but my question is, how does a city like New York come back after something like this?
Well, I wish I can just tell you as a former New Yorker that this is unique to a particular zip code. I'm actually going to be reaching out this week to the head of the FBI after the other incident that took place in Los Angeles where the president of AIPAC's home was attacked with, this time, stink bombs, but who knows next time. We have to begin to look at these issues within the context of domestic terrorism. Even though these are high school kids, etc., their buttons are being pushed on social media, on TikTok. You have the absorption and promotion of the Hamas narrative across the seas and across generations. And not only in this particular case, we understand that this unfortunate teacher's personal information has also been compromised. So this is targeting, it's not just bullying, and the escalation of this kind of activity will lead to...
I don't agree with that. I don't think, but these kids are out of control these days. And that's to be expected. I mean, look what they're taking in. when I was growing up, I often thought of influence. I used to run this thought experiment in my head, and I pictured that there was this child born with no stimulation whatsoever. He was born in a white room, white walls. There was nothing in there. Never knew anything. Nobody. It was just complete. Food would come through a little slot. It was force fed to them as they were babies until they, grew up and they were able to eat. But that was all that they knew. Maybe language. Somehow they were taught language, whatever, so they could understand things. But not being taught anything, right? Just what words mean anyway. That's what we all are. We only are the product of the information that we take in. So when you have this younger generation continuously, generation after generation, it gets increasingly worse. But so does the information and the quality of content that we are taking in as well. To the point where how could you blame them? How can you expect any other outcome other than the one which we are seeing? They're breeding them in a way, like not the term breeding necessarily, but like as far as they're concerned, they're feeding them all of this poison. I mean, look at the music, look at the movies, look at all the forms of entertainment. Look how these children are spending the majority of their days and what it is that they're doing and absorbing. Because you are a blank slate. And you are a product of the information that you take in. Some have more control over their autonomy than others. They're able to think more clearly about what it is that is going on around them and then choose the information as opposed to it being chosen for them. Because even though many would say, well, I like this band because I like this rap group, or I like this movie, but they don't. It's what they were taught to like. It's the surroundings and society, the information and all of it together that they were brought up in that has warped their thinking in a way where they think that Doja Cat running across the ceiling is a demon, literally singing about nothing other than just evil. Just straight, I mean, a spade to spade. Just evil. Now, any other time, if you took that video, just as an example, if you took that video and you threw it back 30 years to that youth, it would be rejected. You have to slowly bring people into that. You have to brainwash them generationally. Because it would be, if you tried doing this 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, and just swapped out all of it for what it is now, it would be too shocking and it would be rejected. So incrementalism is always the answer to that. And that's what's happening. And now we are starting to get to the point where how much further can we sink? How much more immoral can we become? Now, I don't stand by Israel by any means. I especially don't stand by any of the central banksters or the people that are in control of those very powerful networks that I just mentioned, like the music industry, Hollywood, etc., that shows all this evil, because usually they are owned by a certain select group of people. That same group of people that claims that they are so under attack right now. And I don't think for one second that is outside the realm oh man, Tough to say. How do I word that? It's just by design. I'll leave it there. I don't want to sound like
to violence, not to say what this says about the New York City school system right now.
Yes, sir. More Israeli hostages are expected to be released today. The total number will be over 60 people released over the last 4 days. Rabbi, as the hostages come home, is the PR battle turning in Israel's favor?
I think it's really that part of the battle is a draw.
no. There's something big coming, guys. There's something big coming for sure, because this just seemed like a prequel in a way. This whole Israeli Hamas thing. Now it is going to lead to World War III. I'm convinced of it. But that's a little later down the road when things start spreading. But here in the States, and I think New York. I'm sorry, I got an eyelash in my eye or something. Here in New York, it seems like they're laying the foundation, especially with Kathy Hochul and her recent tyranny, that they're hoping for something similar in a way where they can use whatever event that they orchestrate and create to start visiting people, getting involved early, whatever that means. Like, she made no bones about it that they would be very involved in the whole process of de-radicalization, of finding these people that may be potential threats later down the road and intervene and re-educate them. Now, that sounds so ridiculous, and who would ever go for it, minus a major attack of some sort? Because people are much more willing and much more malleable after those things occur. That's proven.
Raw. I think Hamas is certainly dictating.
All right, I'm already tired of it. Let's move on. Elon Musk wields Starlink in Israel to curb uproar. Right, he's so anti-Semitic that he is using his Starlink with Israel and allowing them to have a massive advantage over Palestine. I'm not going to waste time on it. Musk endorsement has the top ADL advisor ready to quit. I don't care. Kathy Hochul touts media literacy toolkit for kids against misinformation as hate crimes surge. What a mouthful that is. Hochul touts media literacy toolkit. Well, that sounds great. Don't they always? The Patriot Act, the Freedom Act. My favorite. Well, it's not my favorite actually, but it's up there. The Inflation Reduction Act, which couldn't be the most. I mean, it literally did the exact opposite, like they always do. They always do the exact opposite. That's why they name them in the ways that they do. But the Inflation Reduction Act, you could read the first page and be like, this is going to do nothing but cause inflation. But that's what they do. So, media literacy toolkit for kids against misinformation. Kids, kids. Oh my God. It's like Hitler's youth group. It's what they're trying to do with the children. Look at this little monster. I thought that said Nordstrom for a minute. Oh, did I not get the video? Tisk, tisk. Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced an initiative to combat online hate ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday last week after alarming surges in hate against Jews and Muslims and Arabs coincided with the Israeli-Hamas war. An immediacy literacy toolkit for students was among them. That doesn't sound good to me, man. Especially, wasn't but a couple of years ago, I remember making a video talking about how Israel had basically created this program with Andrew Cuomo about reimagining New York in their school system, especially. Now, we're kind of following that with this media literacy toolkit from Kathy Hochul. It's basically the same thing, and Israel is still very much involved. We're deploying physical security resources, expanding our threat management and assessment teams, meaning they're going to be looking at your child through a magnifying glass, and if they dare say anything, if they overheard you and your loved one talking over dinner one night about the current state of things, and God forbid your child repeats some of that during class, well, it's time to re-educate them. It's time for the media literacy toolkit to kick in. We're deploying physical security resources, expanding our threat management assessment teams, calling for a stronger action from social media companies, and encouraging families and communities to come together to fight hate. Could it be more Orwellian? Could you try to be more Orwellian? I don't think I could. I think they literally ripped this right out of 1984. This blew my mind, guys. There was something up with this. Remember that terrorist attack that was on the Rainbow Bridge that ended up not being a terrorist attack? The amount of coverage that got by Justin Trudeau and what's that girl's name on Fox News? They covered this as if it was certain. Now, why would you do that? Why would you risk the credibility of your major network to get ahead of the story and try? No. They clearly had information that this was a terrorist attack ahead of time. And when it happened, they knew exactly what to do. They went into game plan and they started reporting the news that they were supposed to report, but something went wrong. And they weren't able to pull this one off in the manner in which they had hoped. So they pulled back. Problem being, people had already done and reported on the story in the manner in which it was originally supposed to be brought to the people. Especially the Fox News chick, man. She went all out talking about, like, she had all this information that none of it ended up being true. So that now they're liable for smearing and defaming people that had nothing to do with it. It's just ridiculous. So clearly something was staged and it didn't go off quite as planned. Erroneous reports about border incidents fed a frenzy, blah, 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 blah. For a few hours Wednesday afternoon, Canada appeared to be staring down the barrel of an unwelcome and potentially painful international crisis. News reports were awash in misinformation. Why? I mean, these are the trusted sources, the authoritative sources that they continually tell us that this is the only form of information that we are allowed to digest. Anything else outside of that is hate speech, anti-Semitism, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and so on. So how can they continually get it so incredibly wrong, but still demand that they are the only source of knowledge and information that we must turn to? Some U.S. media began describing it as a terrorist explosion caused by a vehicle entering from Canada. No, they said a little bit more than that. Every element of that preceding sentence was dispelled within hours as flat out wrong. There was no attack from Canada. The incident occurred entirely on U.S. soil. In fact, authorities don't believe it was a terrorist attack at all. That didn't stop a candidate for president of the United States from appearing on Fox News to promote an aspect of his platform, building a border wall. That's not even it, man. Like, I should have found it first. Let's see if I can't. Nah, I'm sure it's gone. I'm not going to waste time. But look at, if you got time, check it out. Look up Fox News and the reporting on this Rainbow Bridge incident, because they had a whole segment knowing exactly what they were talking about. What's her name, man? Kelly something? It just seems off. Oh, good to see this, though. Elon Musk endorses debunked. Bullshit, man. If anything is the furthest thing from debunked, Pizzagate is definitely on that list. Conspiracy theory and deletes post. Yeah, because he's a piece of shit shill.
Un mensaje oficial de Medicare.
Adivina qué, durante la inscripción abierta de Medicare encontré una nueva opción que me cae bien. Visita es.medicare.gov antes del 7 de diciembre y compara tus opciones.
Pagado por el Departamento de Salud y Servicios Humanos de los Estados Unidos.
Elon Musk endorses debunked Pizzagate conspiracy theory and deletes post. By Brian Bouchard. Top line. Elon Musk on Tuesday briefly posted, and then deleted, a meme to his social media platform X referencing the widely discredited far-right Pizzagate conspiracy theory, claiming the theory seems a little suspicious, just over a week after he came under fire for supporting a post deemed anti-Semitic. Key facts. Musk posted a meme on X Tuesday morning referencing Pizzagate, which falsely claims Bill and Hillary Clinton and other major Democrats operated a sex trafficking ring out of a pizza shop in Washington, D.C., a widely debunked conspiracy theory that gained traction in far-right circles in the lead-up to the 2016 election, and resulted in a gunman storming a pizza shop in the city. The meme, which references a scene out of The Office, claims the conspiracy theory is real, involved, trafficked children, and that an expert debunking the theory just went to jail for child porn. Musk posted the meme with the caption, "Does seem at least a little suspicious," though he appeared to delete it several hours later. Musk then commented with a link to a news article originally published by the Associated Press in July.
All right. But every one of you I know are well aware of what Pizzagate is. We all know how the elite operate. And who are the elite? Right? I mean, who are these sick that do these types of unspeakable acts to children? And why do they do it? Do you know what the Blood Bible is? Do you know that there's actually standing buildings with decorative art statues that depict this very act at a synagogue? No, it's a conspiracy theorist. And just speaking on that topic alone. So this is the problem that we face. We know that these problems really exist. But if you talk about them, you get grouped into Pizzagate or whatever other QAnon, or constantly tying us into one of their created catch-alls, so they can discredit that whole thing, like Pizzagate, with the staged act of one of their agents going in to shoot up the place to find out what was really going on at Comet Ping Pong, where the basement, there is something called Frazzled RIP or Frazzled Drip, where Hillary Clinton and one of her aides were doing atrocious things to children, well, that will be out. You guys will probably see that eventually. You don't want to. But it's definitely Hillary Clinton. There's no doubt about it. Now, these things are clearly not okay for the public to know, because those people that are in power want to remain in power. And they're going to do everything and anything they can to hold on to it. And that means grouping you into, even though you're not, even though you are a good, caring, kind, good-hearted person that wishes well upon everyone and does what you can to help out and hates violence, never would encourage it or do any, does not matter. It's about the information that you're taking in. It's about the information that you're sharing. And what that may, if it wakes people up, if it shows them that this powerful group of people that are in charge are nothing but satanic pieces of garbage, well, then you're the problem. You, upstanding citizen that cares about people and that is willing to give the shirt off your back to help somebody, you're the problem. Now, if you're just a Doja Cat loving piece of shit yourself that is a product of today's modern society, feeding off all of the mainstream, stuffing yourself with all of these processed foods and just doing everything and being everything that they want you to be, they got no problem with you. You're fine. But dare you have a conscience? Dare you be open-minded? Dare you think for yourself? Because then you're a terrorist. Apparently. Now, this was all fine and dandy for the years and years and years that I've been doing this. Because it was always down the road when this was going to happen. It was years off. It wasn't anytime soon that they would be going and finding out why you posted what it was that you posted before you actually met anybody in person. But those days are over. And the days that are here now are the days that we can expect those very things. And they keep using these famous incidents, these people that everybody knows about, to make the case and say, well, if that can happen to that person, it can happen to you. And they do that for that reason. They want you to know that will happen to you. It's not that it was claimed, it's that we've seen the emails. We've seen the emails. That's why they're not letting Julian Assange out, because they know the treasure trove of cached information that he has. He's never going to walk a free man, because he knows what happened. Anybody who does 5 minutes of research into what really happened, not your mainstream media garbage, but actually looks into Pizzagate, and not just Pizzagate, that whole network. Look up, I mean, these people are everywhere. They operate in a very similar manner as the way that witches and warlocks used to operate in the 17 and 1800s. They have their groups, and if you're outside of it, if you're somebody that isn't under some type of blackmail or some sort of information that they're holding over you that they can use against you if you ever scout against the group, then you will never know any of it. And they've been operating. This is as old as time. And they're Satanists. They're satanic. Now, they've adopted a religion, but it's not the real religion. They masquerade as this religion. But they are Satanists. And there are very few of the real religion left because they try to do away with the real ones. And transplant themselves in its place. Now that's almost complete. We are in the end times. And it can go a number of different ways. I mean, I often get the argument, well, it's all set in stone. It doesn't matter what we do. I hope you really don't believe that. Because if you're operating under that type of thinking, then there is little chance for us, let alone hope. But that's not the case at all. We can make tremendous differences. But we really have to reach people, and we have to be willing to put ourselves out there, as uncomfortable and awkward as that can be at times. I'm not just saying go around running out and saying this type of stuff. Not at all. But when there's an opportunity, and you will know when they happen, you will know when there's an opportunity where you can gradually plant a seed. And if you miss it, if you're aware of it, but you're too uncomfortable, we know how this will end. And the reverse is true as well. Now it's way past time where we could turn it around. But there's still a way that we can mitigate what we have left. I'm going to get wrapping it up, guys. I appreciate you all joining me. Share the video. Make sure that you get it out there. Make sure, not just my videos, but any video that you can, that's speaking truth, that's doing whatever they can to also get it out there. I'll leave it up. What's up, Melissa? Good to see you. I appreciate it. Just do you, and do what you can. God bless. Much love. Peace.